Listen to me. If you keep living your life based on what other people think, you are never going to feel free. You are never going to feel fulfilled. You're never going to feel like you're living your life. And the truth is, most people are so busy thinking about themselves that they're not even thinking about you in the first place. We give so much power to the opinions of others when deep down, they don't even hold the pen to write our story. You do. Here's the thing, every single time you hesitate, every single time you second guess yourself, every single time you shrink your dreams or water down who you are because you're afraid of being judged, you are handing your power away. You are teaching your brain that someone else's approval matters more than your own happiness. And that's why you feel stuck. That's why you feel like you're constantly chasing validation instead of creating a life that lights you up. You don't need permission to be who you are. You don't need acceptance from everyone to pursue the thing you love. The people who truly matter, the ones who belong in your life, they will support you when you rise. The rest, let them talk, let them doubt you, let them misunderstand you. Their opinions cannot build your dreams, and they cannot destroy them unless you let them. Think about this for a second. If you spend your entire life trying to make everyone else happy, where does that leave you? Miserable, exhausted, empty. You become so focused on keeping up appearances that you forget to ask yourself the most important question. What do I actually want? And when you start asking that question, when you give yourself permission to focus on what truly matters to you, everything begins to change. You gain energy back. You stop overthinking. You stop seeking approval from people who don't even live your life. And here's the powerful part. When you stop chasing validation, you actually start attracting respect, because people can feel when you're grounded, when you're confident, when you're living authentically. That energy draws the right people in and pushes the wrong ones out. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're finally taking responsibility for your own happiness. It means you're done outsourcing your worth to other people's opinions. It means you've decided to invest your time, your energy, and your heart into the one thing you can control, you. And when you do that, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what feels right for me? That shift right there, that decision to choose yourself, that's the moment everything changes. Because when you finally put your energy into becoming the best version of yourself, you stop competing, you stop comparing, and you start creating a life that's real, meaningful, and yours. Let me tell you something that will change the way you see yourself forever. Other people's opinions do not define you. They never have, and they never will. But the problem is, most of us live as though they do. We walk into a room already worried about what people are going to say, what they're going to think, whether they're going to approve. We make choices not because they align with what we want, but because we're terrified of being judged. And you know what that does? It keeps you small. It keeps you silent. It keeps you stuck living a life that isn't even yours. The truth is, most people are too busy thinking about themselves to be focused on you. They're worried about how they look, what people are saying about them, and how they're being perceived. Think about it. When was the last time you sat around analyzing someone else's every decision, every move, every outfit, every career choice? You don't, because you're caught up in your own world. And so is everybody else. Yet here you are, letting imaginary judgments run your life. The irony is incredible. You're sacrificing your potential, your happiness, and your peace of mind for thoughts that probably don't even exist in someone else's head. Here's the hard reality. When you let other people's opinions control you, you hand them the steering wheel of your life. And guess what? They don't even know where you're going. They don't know your dreams. They don't know the fire inside of you. They don't know what you've overcome or what you're capable of. Yet you're giving their fleeting thoughts more weight than your own truth. That's not just unfair to you. It's dangerous. Because you only get one life. And if you waste it bending and shrinking to fit into someone else's expectations, you'll wake up one day and realize you never actually lived. Let's be clear. You cannot stop people from having opinions. They will always have them. You can't control what they think or what they say, but you can control how much power you give it. And the moment you realize that their opinions are just that, opinions, not facts, you take your power back. Someone's criticism is not a definition of your worth. Someone's disapproval does not mean you're failing. Someone's gossip doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means they're a human with thoughts just like you. And thoughts aren't reality until you decide they are. The moment you stop asking, what will people think, and start asking, what do I think? Everything changes. You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. You stop hiding and start showing up as who you really are. You stop performing and start living. That's when confidence begins to build, because confidence doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from proving to yourself that you're willing to live your truth regardless of what anyone else thinks. So the next time you feel that knot in your stomach, that fear of judgment, that urge to shrink, I want you to remember this. You are not here to be defined by someone else's opinion. You are here to define yourself. And the second you choose to stop giving power to those outside voices, you start living from the strongest, truest, most unstoppable version of you. That is where your freedom begins. Let me be brutally honest with you. If you spend your entire life trying to make everyone like you, you will lose yourself in the process. You will bend, twist, and shrink into a version of you that isn't even real just to fit into someone else's expectations. And the worst part, no matter how much you try, no matter how perfectly you perform, no matter how much you sacrifice who you are to keep people happy, there will still be someone who doesn't like you. That's the truth. No one tells you you can't win at the game of pleasing everybody. The only way to win is to stop playing. You've got to get this. When you base your self-worth on external validation, you put your happiness in other people's hands. You're basically saying, tell me who I am. Tell me if I'm enough. Tell me if I'm worthy. And that is dangerous, because you're giving power to people who don't have to live your life, who don't walk in your shoes, who don't know your struggles, your dreams, or your heart. They're operating from their own fears, their own insecurities, their own biases, and yet you're letting them dictate who you get to be. Listen, the people whose approval you're chasing, half of them don't even have their own lives figured out. And here's the kicker. They probably aren't even thinking about you as much as you think they are. That voice in your head that says, what if they laugh at me? What if they judge me? What if they think I'm not good enough? That's not their voice. That's your fear talking. That's your self-doubt pretending to be them. And the more you feed it, the louder it gets. So how do you break free? You start by realizing that you are not responsible for managing other people's opinions. You are not here to control how they see you. You are not here to perform so they'll approve of you. You are here to live your life, not theirs. That means you have to stop waiting for permission to be yourself. Stop asking if it's okay to pursue your dream. Stop seeking validation before you take action. Stop letting other people's voices drown out your own. Here's what I've learned. You can either spend your life trying to be liked, or you can spend your life being real. You can't have both. And being real will cost you some people. It will make some people uncomfortable. It will trigger their insecurities. And you know what? That's okay. Because the people who truly matter, the ones who belong in your life, they don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be authentic. They love you for who you are, not for the performance you put on to impress the crowd. And the thing is, when you finally stop chasing approval, something amazing happens. You get your energy back. You stop overthinking every little decision, every post, every outfit, every move. You stop exhausting yourself trying to manage other people's perceptions. And instead, you redirect all that energy into becoming the person you're proud of. That's where real confidence comes from. It doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from likes or followers. It comes from the quiet moments when you know you're living in alignment with your values, your truth, and your purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being liked by everyone. It's about liking yourself. It's about being able to look in the mirror and say, I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I'm becoming. And when you operate from that place, you stop being controlled by fear and you start moving with freedom. That's the kind of energy that attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right path forward. You need to understand something fundamental about life. People are always going to have opinions about you no matter what you do. You could be the most hardworking, the most generous, the kindest person on the planet, and someone will still find something to criticize. And if you let that get inside your head, if you let those opinions dictate your choices, you'll end up living a life that doesn't even feel like yours. You'll be exhausted, frustrated, and constantly second-guessing yourself because deep down, you know you're not being authentic. That's the real problem with caring too much about what people think. It steals your freedom. It takes away your voice. It forces you into living a scripted life designed to please everyone else while you silently abandon yourself. Here's the truth. The moment you start focusing on your own path, people are going to talk. When you make a decision that others wouldn't make, they're going to judge you. When you start setting boundaries, they're going to call you selfish. When you stop living by their expectations, they're going to call you difficult. And that's okay, because their reactions have nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. People project their fears, insecurities, and limitations onto you all the time. The problem is, most of us start believing those projections as if they're facts. Let me ask you something. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something important because you were worried about how it would look to other people? How many opportunities have you passed on? How many dreams have you put on hold? How many times have you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak up just because you were afraid of being judged? You think you're avoiding discomfort, but really you're choosing a different kind of pain, the pain of regret, and regret always hurts more than judgment ever could. When you truly focus on yourself, you start creating space between other people's opinions and your own reality. You begin to realize that their thoughts are not your responsibility. Their judgments do not define your worth. Their disapproval does not diminish your value. The only person you have to wake up and answer to every single day is yourself. And the only opinion that ultimately shapes your future is the one you hold about you. But here's where most people get stuck. They wait for approval before taking action. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect reassurance, the perfect green light from everyone around them. And you know what happens. That moment never comes. If you keep waiting for universal support, you're going to stay stuck forever. The truth is, you have to start moving even when people don't understand your choices. You have to be willing to be misunderstood for the sake of your own growth. Here's the thing, the people who truly matter, the ones who really belong in your life, are not going to need you to explain every single decision you make. They're not going to require you to sacrifice your dreams just to make them comfortable. They're going to support you even when they don't fully understand your choices, because they value you for who you are, not for how well you fit their mold. When you stop worrying about what people think, something incredible happens. You get to fully step into your own power. You stop overthinking, you stop over-explaining, and you stop overcompensating. You take back control of your energy, your time, and your confidence. And that's when your life begins to transform. Because every decision you make comes from a place of intention, not insecurity. Focusing on yourself isn't about shutting the world out. It's about finally letting yourself in. It's about choosing your truth over their noise, your growth over their comfort, and your peace over their approval. The reason so many people feel stuck, drained, and constantly anxious is because they're living their lives trying to meet everyone else's expectations. You're bending yourself into shapes that don't even feel natural, just to fit into boxes someone else built for you. And here's the thing, when you spend your time worrying about what other people think, you're literally handing over control of your life to them. You're letting their opinions dictate your choices, your happiness, and your future. That's why you feel unfulfilled, like something is missing, even when you're doing everything right. You can't rise into the best version of yourself while you're still busy performing for everyone else. Every single time you seek approval before making a decision, you're sending yourself a message. I don't trust my own judgment. I don't believe in myself. And over time, that erodes your confidence, your self-worth, and your identity. You start forgetting what you actually want because you've spent so long trying to guess what everybody else expects from you. And let me tell you something, that is exhausting. When you stop living for other people and start living for yourself, it feels uncomfortable at first, because you've been conditioned to look outward for validation. You've been trained to check everyone's reactions before trusting your own instincts. That's why taking back your power feels unnatural in the beginning. But here's the truth. The more you practice choosing yourself, the stronger you become. The first time you set a boundary, your voice might shake, your palms might sweat, and you might question yourself 100 times. But that's okay. That's growth. Growth never feels comfortable, but it's always worth it. Now, here's what you have to understand. Not everyone is going to support you when you start prioritizing yourself. Some people will get upset because your growth exposes their limitations. Some will criticize you because your courage highlights their fears, and some will distance themselves simply because you no longer fit into the version of you they're comfortable with. But here's the thing, you cannot keep shrinking to make other people feel safe. You are not responsible for managing anyone else's insecurities. Your only responsibility is to honor yourself and your truth. And yes, people will talk, they'll gossip, they'll judge, they'll label you as selfish, difficult, or too much. But here's the secret. Most of the time, their opinions aren't even about you. People see you through the lens of their own fears, failures, and frustrations. They project their own insecurities onto you because it's easier than facing them. When you realize that, their words lose power, their judgment stops feeling like a verdict and starts feeling like background noise. Every single time you choose yourself, you're sending a powerful signal to your mind. I am enough. I trust myself. My dreams matter. And when you start living from that place, everything shifts. Your energy changes. Your relationships transform. You begin attracting opportunities that actually align with who you are, not who you're pretending to be. But none of that can happen until you stop living on other people's terms. You have to decide what success means to you. You have to define your own priorities, your own boundaries, your own path, because if you don't, someone else will. And here's the harsh truth. If you keep living to impress everyone else, you'll spend your whole life performing instead of living. You'll end up exhausted, resentful, and wondering why happiness always feels out of reach. The freedom you're craving, the confidence, the peace, the purpose, it doesn't come from people finally approving of you. It comes from you approving of yourself. It comes from trusting your intuition more than you trust other people's opinions. It comes from making decisions based on what's right for you, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it disappoints others, even when it scares you. Because nothing changes until you decide that your opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. Once you master that, you stop chasing validation and start creating fulfillment. You stop seeking permission and start living with intention. You finally take your power back, and that's when you become unstoppable. When you finally stop worrying about what other people think, you begin to see yourself clearly for the first time. You start to realize that you spent years, maybe even your entire life, carrying around expectations that were never yours to begin with. You've been wearing identities that other people handed you, what your parents wanted you to be, what society told you to be, what your friends thought was acceptable, and all this time, your true self has been buried underneath layers of other people's opinions. Here's the truth. The life you want will never happen until you stop outsourcing your worth, because every single time you let someone else's opinion define your choices, you're quietly telling yourself that their voice matters more than yours. That is the fastest way to lose yourself. And if you've been wondering why you feel stuck, unmotivated, or like you're just going through the motions, this is probably the reason. You've been trying so hard to be like that you forgot to be yourself. The people who thrive, the ones who feel alive, they all have one thing in common. They've made peace with the fact that not everyone is going to understand them, support them, or approve of them, and they've stopped caring. They know something most people don't. Your dreams were given to you, not to anyone else. Your vision for your life doesn't have to make sense to your friends, your family, or anyone scrolling on social media. It only has to make sense to you. But here's where it gets real. The moment you start showing up as your authentic self, some people are going to fall away. And that's not just okay, it's necessary. Because if someone only likes you when you're playing small, they were never meant to walk with you into the bigger, bolder version of your life. Letting go of people who don't align with where you're headed is not selfish, it's self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation for confidence, clarity, and peace. This is where courage comes in, because shifting your focus back to yourself isn't easy at first. You're going to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You're going to question yourself when people push back. You're going to feel uncomfortable when you say no instead of yes. But here's what you need to remember. Every time you choose yourself, you are training your brain to trust you again. You're building an internal belief system that says, I matter. My needs matter. My dreams matter. That's where true freedom comes from. And let me tell you something. When you stop chasing other people's approval, you'll start attracting the right people naturally, the ones who love you for you, not for who you pretend to be. The ones who respect your boundaries instead of crossing them. The ones who celebrate your growth instead of feeling threatened by it. But none of that can happen while you're still performing for the wrong audience. People will always have opinions. Always. You can't control what they say, how they judge, or what they think, but you can control what you focus on. And when you choose to focus on yourself, your values, your goals, the fact growth, you finally create a life that feels authentic. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. And that's when everything begins to shift. Because here's the secret no one tells you: people's opinions don't pay your bills. Their judgment doesn't build your dreams.